Hey, GM. Happy Thursday, everyone. Sorry for a little bit of a late start here. Was trying to get our guest, Alex Layendecker, into Discord. We're having some technical issues here. He's not able to kind of access the Discord account at this time. So we'll see if we can get him in here as we go through some other updates on the agenda. I guess to kick things off, Itchy, do you want to give us an update on the final reports timeline and the community contributions that's coming up here, closing soon?
Sure, yeah. It's coming up here pretty quick, end of the quarter. Just another 5 days to get those final reports in. So that's for all of our current contributors. The deadline is on the 8th, and that is also for the community circle as well. So if you did anything to support MoonDAO, anything even like tangential to MoonDAO's goals, you can add that into our community circle. I'll post the link here in just one moment. It's just another 5 days left. So if you did anything last quarter that you want to get in there, then you've got a limited time. After that, we will actually be presenting at the next town hall. So in 7 days on the 10th, that's going to be our demo day. So make sure you're there, and you'll get to see all of the nitty-gritty details of the proposals or the projects and the results. And then we'll have a 5-day period where basically all of our community members, voting members, and citizens can vote on how they believe those the reward pool should be distributed. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it should be a pretty good quarter. We've got a lot of great submissions in the community circle already. I just posted that link. So if you haven't already, go ahead and submit your contributions.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitchie. Yeah, there's been some really great community contributions this quarter. We've had things from social media posts or space art or town hall guests that we've had here in the past. Some really, really cool. I think it's our most active contribution cycle that we've had for a long time, not ever, in terms of this new format that we use. But yeah, I guess we can move on to new proposals. I know Pablo has the executive branch proposal for the next cycle of funding for the executive branch. Pablo wants to hop up. Hey, Pablo.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Let me share my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Great. Is this coming through? All right. Okay. I'll get us started then. So this is a proposal to continue funding the executive branch for MoonDAO. I guess I'll go into what's changed. So this is our third cycle, or third iteration on the executive branch. And I guess I'll go into the history of it a little bit. Basically, there was a point within MoonDAO where we were all project-based. So essentially, every project had its own operations, and there's no real core to the DAO. It was just everyone was funding proposals through the project system, and it reached a point where we felt like we're kind of missing a foundation and a core, essentially a team that can distribute responsibilities of a lot of the kind of shared assets of the DAO. So that includes, for example, our social media. It includes operations on the Treasury. It includes maintenance of the website. The things that all of the projects use that essentially just need a little bit more dedicated love and energy, so that we can all build on top of it. From there, so that was the first kind of core of it. We put together a team to kind of support that all of those kind of fundamental operations of the DAO. We've now been operating using that model for about a year and a half now. So the first version of this was 6 months. Then we budgeted for a year, and now this proposal here, which is another 6-month proposal, will continue operations. So there's a few things that are different, though. Basically, the way that MoonDAO has kind of operated since that point, where we have this executive branch, the executive branch would kind of maintain 2 budgets. One that was core to those fundamental operations of the DAO, and then another that was kind of geared towards new development, so new ideas, new projects, really centered around generating revenue for the organization. And that last bit is really important. We need to generate sustainable revenue for MoonDAO, so that we have positive cash flows and we can continue doing what we're doing. And as time went on, that focus on revenue is really kind of one of these core fundamental things that needs to exist so that everyone else can build on top of it. And these projects have a little bit of a longer leash. We can take more bets, we can experiment more, but in order to do that, we need to have a strong foundation of revenue coming into the organization. So essentially, this proposal is doing a slight tweak. We're actually absorbing that kind of recurring project that was being done essentially by the executive branch for this new development of revenue generating assets for the DAO, and actually just absorbing that into the executive branch as a core feature of what we're doing. So this proposal basically expands the scope of the executive branch to not just maintain operations, but to grow the DAO and grow its revenue. Because at a very fundamental level, if we're drawing more from the Treasury than we're putting back in, then this experiment ends. So we need to be finding ways that we can be useful to other groups, other communities, things that they'll pay for, so that we can continue doing what we're doing. So that kind of paints a picture of the motivation behind this proposal, and now I'll get into the specifics. So basically, the problem statement kind of boiled down to one sentence here. I'll just read this one out loud because it's important. MoonDAO must achieve and maintain at minimum a 3-year runway for the DAO indefinitely to sustain its operations comfortably. This means scaling revenue and decreasing operating costs, that the net outflow from the Treasury is never projected to be more than 1/3 of the total assets of the DAO on a yearly basis. So it's kind of a mouthful. It's very precise wording, but basically what this means is, in order for us to comfortably operate, we need to have at least a 3-year run rate. This is kind of we want to be able to not have the water up to our necks, because then that really restricts what kinds of projects we can take on, what kinds of things we can spend our energy on. And so I guess going a layer deeper, we did an accounting of basically MoonDAO's assets, MoonDAO's current revenue, and MoonDAO's current operating costs. So across multi-sigs, looking at everything that MoonDAO currently has in its treasury or extended sort of project treasuries, we have a little under $1 million as of this writing. That number tends to fluctuate because of the price of ETH or Bitcoin, which is, you know, a big part of our treasury, but it floats around that number. So using that as a basis, you know, our net outflow can't be more than a little over $300,000 a year. So essentially what that means is MoonDAO needs to, given our current operating costs, which after a lot of kind of speaking to the team, so we've got a core team of 5 individuals here at MoonDAO that are all, you know, drawing a salary. We're basically able to talk to everyone on the team and say, hey, you know, what is a level of pay where, you know, we cover all of your costs, you are you know, essentially making ends meet, and you have a bit of a comfortable enough you know, living situation, so that we can keep making bets towards revenue within MoonDAO. And you know, that's kind of where we're at, really. We need to extend our runway so that we can continue making these bets and find this path towards revenue within the DAO. And so given those conversations, we found that, you know, between the 5 of us, between current subscriptions that the DAO has, some amount of flexible budget to allow for travel to conference here, there, or, you know, some basically these kind of expenses that we currently have, that's looking at around $432,000 per year. Keep in mind that this budget here is for 6 months, and I'll get into why here soon. So another really big bit of context is over the last quarter, essentially, we've been really focused on the Launchpad, which we believe is going to be the strongest revenue generator so far that MoonDAO has created, that helps other teams fundraise on chain. Basically taking our expertise, everything that we've done at MoonDAO in raising over $8 million via Ethereum, and then taking those learnings and bringing them to other teams and helping them fundraise and helping them make money on chain, so that they can kick their projects off. They can, you know, launch their initiatives. And we need to give that bet some time to breathe in terms of, you know, what that revenue is going to look like. And essentially what we've set as a goal for ourselves is, given those operating costs of $432,000, and the target that we're trying to hit of around 1/3 of the treasury for burn, we need to hit about $126,000 in revenue this year. And we think that's an achievable goal. We think we can get there. But yeah, we basically are setting that as kind of the major objective for the 6-month period, is to show that this new system can scale to that level of revenue. Within here is also kind of an accounting of current revenue coming into the organization. So you know, there's stuff like AMM fees. So this is basically liquidity fees for the token. There's the amount that's coming in from citizens and teams. There's staking that we're doing right now of about 96 ETH. Our zero gravity flight, our sales with the MWO capsule. So this is the MOONEY to the Moon project that we did with LifeShip. And we've got these 2 line items that are kind of, you know, these are the things, these are our focus right now. The Launchpad and some of these treasury management proposals were some of these tweaks to the treasury management, where we can do some essentially AMM liquidity provisioning for some of these tokens that are launching with the Launchpad. So, you know, I guess basically in summary, our current annual recurring revenue, I didn't count the 0G flights or LifeShip, because those aren't really recurring. Those were something that we did, but, you know, we're not necessarily planning on doing in the future. is about 18.7K. So we basically need to come up with about 100K in revenue for the Launchpad. Yeah, so that's kind of like our current financial picture for the DAO. So I go into a bit of the team structure. This is the current team. Nothing's changing here. The responsibilities basically are about the same as they were. We're going to be adding a third leader of the DAO beginning of August. So that might mean a bit of a shuffle in terms of the team, depending on who the DAO elects. And then the rest of this is basically stayed the same. There's a reward for net income coming into the DAO treasury, a reward for growth of the overall treasury. This is basically the same as last year as well. So far, this hasn't really kicked to be anything substantial for the DAO, but these are kind of the sort of carrots. If we do really well at our job, if we grow the treasury, if we bring in a substantial revenue, this is the reward that's going to the team. That's proportional to basically the impact and revenue that the team is bringing in. So beyond that, there's a small budget of about 2K a month. So this is discretionary funds for the DAO. This might mean a small role for a summer intern. It might mean any sort of bills that come in that are unexpected, as well as travel to any conference that the executive branch is going to. We've been pretty slim on travel budget, and we're going to be slimming it down even more. And then we've got about a little under $1,500 a month in different subscriptions, services, things that the DAO uses. So this ranges from like infrastructure costs, like just hosting the website, to different services that we use, like that like helps us with event management within the Discord. And there's an accounting, there's a spreadsheet in here somewhere that breaks down each of those costs. Benefits and risks, boil down, benefits are, if we do our job well, we've got a really strong flow of revenue to the organization. Risks are, if we don't do it, then can we continue to justify the expenses of the team? And so, we've got a lot of skin in the game here. If we bring in the level of revenue that we hope to, then we can continue paying for this team. And so
Pablo, is it? I think we lost you here. Not just me. I thought it might have just been my end. Technical difficulties today. Hang on, let's see. Hey, Pablo. Can't hear you. Oh, okay, now we can hear Pablo. I can hear you now. You hear me, Pablo? Okay, I don't know what's going on with Discord, but I think Phil had a question earlier here in the chat. Are there any opportunities to do bounties for executive branch? I know citizens can submit contributions, but a lot of feedback I've gotten has been that people want to do something, can't spare the time for a whole project, but don't know where or how to contribute.
Hey, Pablo, I just wanted to clarify the question. The I wasn't asking about how to submit contributions. It's this platform is here and it's an empty, it's a blank page, an empty box. What did you do? And so uh, just like a bulletin board of things to do would really be helpful. And I was wondering if the executive branch has room for um, things that can be done for the DAO that can be delegated to any citizen to take care of, like updating documentation or I can't think of another example, but um, so that someone can do something and then submit it through the contribution portal. Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Totally. Totally. Right. Yeah. I think the uh the core problem that I'm seeing is that there's a bunch of wind and and everybody has a boat, but they need to pick a direction to start sailing and don't know which direction to go. I think this is definitely something to that I'll think more about, but I think you answered all my questions relating to this proposal that we're talking about. Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking that's exactly where I was thinking is like um right. It's a different discussion, so I don't want to hijack, but I do want to mention that like the executive branch has clear roles and things, so it would be great if other people could have clear objectives.
Yeah, we're missing a few senators here today, so it might have to wait a little bit to get the quorum, but hopefully here we'll get the votes in. Yeah, that's wild. And his friend Amanda, that's got to be kind of surreal too. Well, Alex, can you hear us? I cannot hear Alex. Hey, hey. Can anyone else hear Alex? Okay, more technical difficulties. Alex, you might need to refresh then, or it might be a permissions issue with your phone or browser. Yeah. Okay. All right, we've got Alex coming back in. Discord seems to be having some issues today. I don't know. We lost you briefly, Pablo, and other people could hear. I couldn't. Hey, Alex. Yeah. I guess Alex.
Check.
Hey. All right.
Hey, what's up,
Hear us
fellas?
okay? Hey.
Yeah, I can hear you guys good.
Awesome. All right. Well, great to finally get you in here and able to talk and able to interact. We've been like fighting with this now for like half an hour straight just to get you in Discord and now to be
Yeah, it's
able
been a
to
journey.
speak. But yeah, great to have you here, Alex. Alex is the founder and the current director of ASRI, the Advanced SpaceFlight Research Institute. ASRI is one of the newest teams in the network. They focus a lot on reproductive issues in space and a lot of the science and medical needs that we'll need to become a multiplanetary species in the future. But yeah, Alex, love to get you to tell us a little bit more about your background and ASRI, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks so much for having me. I do appreciate the opportunity to get to know everybody here a little bit better and talk a bit more about what we do and what we're about. So my personal background has effectively all been operational military. And the academic side of things, my postgraduate studies have all been in human sexuality and other things related to space, but all with a space bent on it, if you will. So Air Force Academy graduate, class of 2008. I went into space launch immediately after graduation. I was in space operations for a total of about 8 years. Did space launch for the first half, and later I moved to sort of Blue Forces application, I guess you could call it, working with some counterintelligence groups in what we effectively would call the mainline military. So just helping our sort of downrange forces figure out how to fight in that sense. Following that was selected for pilot training. So got to the second half of my career kind of fulfill a childhood dream, which was flying helicopters for combat search and rescue. I've been doing that for the Air Force Reserve the last just over 8 years now. Based out here in Cape Canaveral at what is now Patrick Space Force Base. So the tenant unit here is a Air Force Rescue Wing, and then obviously all the space launch operations out here are run by the 45th Space. Well, it's no longer the 45th Space Wing, but Space Delta now. So we do on the military side, astronaut support, launch support, and helping make sure that there's no threats to any of our active launch infrastructure. So that's a little bit of my background on the military side. While I was in the launch program, I was doing postgraduate research in the human sexual sciences based out of San Francisco. So given my professional background at the time, things just sort of intersected. I eventually went and did my PhD with a focus on application of sexual sciences and reproductive factors to outer space, which is how the idea of ASRI was born and how the eventual actual institution would come around to be. During the so I'll just give a really brief overview of what ASRI is. During the research process of going through my PhD, I made a couple, I guess you would call them significant findings, keystone findings that would lay out the pathway for how we ended up where we are now. The first being that there are a lot of significant issues that affect reproductive systems. I mean, every human physiological system is impacted by space, but the reproductive systems on people are particularly sensitive. And we have been able to sort of determine that using small animal experiments that NASA and other national space agencies have conducted over the last 5-6 decades in space. So the research to this point in history has been pretty scant, but we do have just enough data to be able to determine that there would be a whole lot of issues with reproduction and sexual health and function in outer space when we start to travel up there in large numbers and actually start trying to settle in places like Mars. So that was the sort of the first big finding out of my dissertation. The second large one was that there is no, or at the time, there was no significant concerted effort to address all the projected issues. And not even a whole lot of people knew that these issues existed, including a lot of people that I spoke with at NASA. And it's just not a widely discussed topic, because NASA has always had a policy of we don't study sex and space, we don't talk about it. But if we're looking forward to the future, we all imagine that, hey, in 50 years, we're going to have, quote unquote, a city on Mars. A lot of people have talked about, but they don't really lend enough credence to the fact that it's going to be people, pink squishy bodies, that are having to live in that city, and the environment itself is extremely radical. So all that in mind, you would think that we would be trying to execute a lot of space life sciences research and trying to figure all these questions out. The questions aren't even really being asked that much at this stage, though. And there are a lot of social, cultural, this was the second big finding, there are a lot of social, cultural, political, and financial barriers to that type of research being done, especially in the area of human sexuality. There's a pretty conservative element always in the United States Congress. Congress holds the purse strings, which funds NASA. Any PR type nightmare thing, anything connected to the scandal, quote unquote, of sex and space, is just a big headache for NASA. At least that's the way that they have always seen it. So it's not something that we can expect reasonably NASA to ever properly address. So that being kept in mind, my third major finding, or not really finding, but the recommendation that I came out of my dissertation with, was that the best way to solve all these problems all together at once and actually develop plans to conduct research and execute research so that we can eventually settle Mars, among other things, and just make sure that our health is optimized in space environments, would be a private research institution that took all of this responsibility, if you would, off NASA's plate. So we would be able to effectively, and we can now as a private research institution, effectively sidestep every traditional barrier that I identified and that we've seen develop since. So we're a private nonprofit research institution based in Cape Canaveral, Florida. We are a registered 501c3. We do have a for-profit arm for investor purposes and everything else, but that is kind of for running business ops side of things. And our entire mission is to study all the things that NASA can't. So studying human sexual reproduction, function, behaviors. We don't just care about the biological aspect. There's also the psychosocial side of things. Just a few days ago, actually, we went live with our missions page on the ASRI website. If you guys want to go check it out, it's asri.space /missions. And you can see our 30-year mission roadmap with 200 plus experiments that we are planning for the next 3 decades to make sure that we can get answers to a lot of these questions. And a lot of those experiments are projected to be orbital. So we are actively planning for and developing the mission design series to actually go and solve these questions in different major categories. So ASRI, as a platform, we effectively act as the centralized planning organization. So we own and maintain and update the map, the Gantt chart, if you would, of experiments and science that needs to be done in order to backfill a lot of these knowledge gaps. We are also a centralized platform for a decentralized network of researchers that are spread across the globe. So there are a lot of individuals and teams out there that do care about reproductive health and how it applies to space, but they are unfunded. They are sort of scattered across universities all over the world. So we are giving them a platform to consolidate beneath. We are also a data and resource hub for all the research that has really happened to date. And we will continue to consolidate data as we execute our own research here over the next 30 years. The final sort of big function that we hold is also going to be that we provide funding. So not just to our own research experiments, but there's a lot of different avenues that ASRI is able to monetize through the popularity, I guess you would say, and high public interest in the subject of sex and space. So a lot of different mechanisms that we have identified, we've been developing, that we're going to be deploying here over this year to bring revenue streams into ASRI. And out of that, we intend to build out our endowment fund. We intend to fund projects that already exist and projects that are being planned right now, as well as execute our own mission research roadmap. So yeah, in a nutshell, we're a one-stop shop for any and all things sex and reproduction in space. Right now, we're the only institution on the planet that studies the full spectrum of human sexuality and reproduction. And I see that there are questions popping up here in the chat. So I'm happy to take questions. I know I just spoke there for like 10 minutes straight. I can tend to go on rants, so feel free to pop up, interrupt me anytime, guys. Yeah, absolutely. So with regard to the history of the research itself, it sort of depends on how you choose to categorize it. When it comes to really strictly biological reproduction, there has been more done than most people would actually guess. I was somewhat surprised. There have been in the dozens of experiments, so not in the hundreds, but certainly in the dozens of small animal experiments that have occurred using things like quail eggs, fish. Medaka fish have actually reproduced in space, so given live birth in space. One that I'll come back to this, Pablo, because I think this is this is one of the anecdotes that you're referring to. Roaches were used on one occasion. Other insects have been used. Amphibians, frog eggs. The ones that I tend to focus on are the small mammal experiments, which mice and rats have been used, which are pretty much your standard, Norwegian rats and your NC standard lab mice. So the most recent experiment that studied reproduction in space was sort of shockingly recent. It happened in late 2023, flew in November and December of 2023. A group of 40 female mice flew on the ISS for a period of 42 days. And the name of that was Rodent Research 20. That was a joint project between University of Kansas Medical Center, a team out there, who ASRI has been directly working with, and NASA, actually. So NASA did provide the grant money that funded that experiment, and that was a experiment that lasted for over a decade. They began planning for it in 2014. It obviously didn't fly until the end of 2023, and they still right now are bringing the results out. I actually spoke to the PI, Dr. Lane Christensen, just night before last, and every single time we speak on the phone, there's cooler and cooler stuff that they have discovered about how the genetics of these mice were impacted, and not just the mice that flew, but their offspring that they had after they came back to Earth, genetic alterations, which is a huge finding. I can't say much more than that, but their paper has been submitted to Science, the journal, and we can expect that that'll be the official publication will come out probably anytime from the next few weeks, the next couple months. But it will make big ripples across the world of medicine and genetics when it does come out. Like I said, I can't say much beyond that because I need to give credit where credit is due and let those scientists really do all the big reveals on what they've discovered. But I mean, even just in the last 3 weeks, they said a lot of the stuff they found has just been completely flooring, which is pretty cool considering these folks don't get floored by much. I mean, they're, you know, they are your lab coat scientists out there. Sorry, I'll try to wrap up sort of the
Alex, I have a
history of the
question.
research here. And we will. I think maybe we'll chat a little bit more about rodent research 20 at the end. But yeah, I'll try to keep the focus on the generalities for now. So small animal experiments, quite a few of them, but they have been very sort of singular data point style in nature. So the scientists are studying one thing, how it was impacted over the course of, you know, a very short period of time. So exposure to the spaceflight environment, you know, those radiation levels and microgravity, especially in low Earth orbit. Studying those impacts has been applied to a number of different species. Like I said, I do tend to focus in on the mammalian stuff because that gives us the best idea of how humans are going to be impacted reproductively, you know, as we go into space. From a general space medicine perspective, there are pretty significant concerns that fall along reproduction. In my field, we do something often called conceptual analysis. When we study something that has never been studied before, we are able to gauge a pretty good idea of how things will turn out and create hypotheses based on what we know has already happened in other areas. We know a lot about, not as much as we should, but we do know a lot about, you know, reproductive science and medicine. You know, you see how significantly birth has improved in major industrialized countries. You know, it's safer these days for women to have babies, certainly than it was a couple hundred years ago. The health protocols are a lot better. We know, medicine writ large is done a lot better in the modern age, you know, in the Western perspective, than it was a couple hundred years ago. So we know a lot of reproductive science from what we've been doing here on Earth. We know a lot about space medicine, space life sciences, and how the human body is impacted from all the flights that astronauts, cosmonauts, psychonauts have done for the last 6 decades. So when we sort of take those two data sets and lay them over one another, it starts to give us an idea of how certain systems that we haven't specifically studied might be impacted. So, for example, one thing that is of great concern right now, and we've had some indications toward, is that there is an increased rate of endometriosis in females with long-term extended exposure to space flight. And even if that is only an increase of a few percentage, you know, ticks on the column chart there, it's not insignificant. With regard to gamete release, we know that certain functions are going to be fine in microgravity, but also something that we don't have verification of yet is whether or not a fertilized zygote, so like egg meets sperm, fertilizes, become a zygote, starts to, to develop that embryo, but it has to implant in the uterine wall in the woman's uterus. Before it does that, it has to travel down the fallopian tube. We don't know if microgravity is going to confuse that fertilized zygote and it's going to be able to find its way out. If it can't, then we have an increased risk of ectopic pregnancies, which not sure how familiar everybody here is with reproductive health. That is an extremely dangerous condition where, the baby starts to develop in the fallopian tube, and it's basically a threat to the baby is already done, but it's also a threat to the life of the mother. And it's a situation that can develop very, very rapidly. If we have women in the future who are in extended deep space flight, they're going to be sort of far from the level of medical help and facilities that they need. Low Earth orbit is a little bit different because you're always just one burn away from re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and being able to get to a proper medical facility. But a lot of different concerns around what we're going to be facing in the future.
Hey, Alex, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
there's a few points where this question is relevant to the recent things you mentioned. Just in case you're not aware, we do have quite a solid chunk of the analog astronaut community as part of MoonDAO, which is really cool. And you mentioned working with animal analogs, which makes total sense for in space stuff. Is there any way that human analogs would be useful for this kind of like bodily research rather than just psychological?
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you have to data mine historical astronaut data?
So sort of all of the above. The way that our research plan is proceeding forward is that so we do have an entire analog series. Our Hera mission series, if you go onto the ASRI missions page, is all going to be analog missions, and those missions are actually going to help prepare research fellows and crews to go up and execute the orbital version of the mission. So we will be collecting baseline data in those analog situations for the crews involved before they launch up into space. And the model that we're using is, obviously we are obviously kind of like you guys did with MoonDAO. We're buying seats to send crews up into space to execute the on orbit experiments. But a big portion of the preparation, the training, and the baseline data, not just psychosocial but medical, that's going to be gathered through the analog process. I don't know if I hope I answered your question. Okay, I see Phil jumped out as speaker or jumped off the speaker.
I don't know if you can see the chat.
chat.
There's quite a few questions and comments in the chat as well. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no worries. So I saw Elliot wrote here about IAS. So yes, we are well familiar with IAS. Actually, I'm not sure I can say this officially yet, but to give you a teaser, so our chief of space medicine, who's been my research partner for the last 10 years, Dr. Shauna Pandya, who I think a lot of people here are familiar with. She sits in 2 chairs at IAS. She is IAS astronaut number 2. She's going to be flying to space on Virgin Galactic, and we have sort of an integration plan to send some of our, obviously everything still has to go through approval and finish planning and all that. But we are going to have our first flight opportunity to bring small experiments to space with Dr. Pandya when she flies. I think she's scheduled to fly late next year. It really just depends on when the Virgin Delta class gets. Actually, I haven't been tracking that very well. Is anybody aware if Delta has already been certified operational? I could probably just Google it here really quick, but reading through some of these other questions really quick. Is my mic okay for people? Okay. No worries. So I'm just reading through some of these. Elliot also asked, is it possible that by studying reproduction microgravity, we might uncover new insights into human physiology and even revolutionize IVF treatments? Yes, absolutely. So if you go to that missions page again and you go to the biotech sector, some of the first missions there are, these are not ASRI missions, but one of our collaborative organizations, Spaceborne United, is planning on launching IVF biotech hardware to space for testing on mice embryos and eventually human, doing human fertilization, IVF, using a roboticized platform in orbit over the next 7 years. So they have been around now since 2018. So they've been around for about 7 years, but their first launch, I believe, which is just a hardware verification, Artist 1, is scheduled this month. Actually, it's later this month. I won't be here for it because I'm going to Hawaii for reserve duty, but their CEO and a few other folks are going to be out here at Cape Canaveral for that launch. I'm trying to remember who the carrier is. They're one of the smaller companies, but they're effectively doing kind of a secretive thing. They're not really announcing that they're doing their first launch, because I think they want it to go well. If it comes to me, I'll bring that back up. But yes, any reproductive medicine research that we do in space, kind of like a lot of things that we do in space, I think can help revolutionize sciences here on Earth, improve performance, and and just overall help us optimize health. The kind of data that we get out of that is pretty invaluable. And Elliot's keeping up the conversation while here with the aligns with the I think this aligns a little with the IAS2 mission. Kelly Girardi would be a great person to chat with, especially because she shared a lot. Yeah, I did watch Kelly's journey with her own IVF treatments on I think I was watching it on Instagram. But yeah, she's got a pretty significant following, and this isn't confirmed yet, but she and Sean are actually both in town. They are in Melbourne, which is just 30 minutes to the south here from Cape Canaveral, for the week, doing training protocols for IAS for their mission. So I am probably going to be going down to visit with them, have lunch, and I've actually never met Kelly in person, so we'll meet in person for the first time. But yes, this is definitely something that we're going to be chatting about. What else you guys got? I think I got to the end of the question. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so multiple layers that we could do here. So Phil mentioned a little bit earlier, hey, there's a lot of analog astronauts that are in the MoonDAO community. If you want to get directly involved with this type of research, we take we consider a wide spectrum of backgrounds. But if you're an analog astronaut, you've already got a foot ahead. So our research plan for the next 30 years is going to take hundreds of people, hundreds of research fellows. And honestly, probably dozens, if not hundreds of organizations. It's not just going to be ASRI. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, we are the quote unquote guardians of the roadmap, but we certainly won't be the only agency that can be expected to conduct and coordinate all of this. There's a whole lot of data to gather. We are already about 60 years behind. This is stuff that, if we really want to settle Mars eventually, this is stuff that we should have been working on in a very concentrated way for decades. So we're already behind. We're a few days away from, or no, sorry, not a few days. That would be awesome. We're a few years away, probably, only from mass access to space. And that is, that's going to bring about a whole conundrum of regular people going to space, people, of course, engaging in sexual activity in space hotels and their own, in spacecraft and everything. So that runs the risk. There are risks that come along with that, some of which I spoke to a little bit earlier. And we need to make sure that we have enough data that the public can at least have informed consent, understand that it's not just risky to do space flight, but if you're engaging in sexual activity, there's also risks that come along with that. And we want to make sure that people are staying safe. So that is kind of one of our top priorities, just to make sure that people are informed. And then long-term strategic objective is, of course, to make sure that humanity can become permanently multiplanetary, because they can have multiple generations in these different environments. With regard to, so that from a personnel standpoint, on the research side, there's one answer. And we're not, we don't just study the biological side of it. Like I said, we study the psychosocial, social cultural, legal, ethical aspects. So we have anthropologists that are, that are research fellows with us. We have psychologists, we have medical doctors, we have legal analysts. So there's a whole spectrum of things that need to happen in order to execute our research plan, and a lot of different ways for people to be involved. So please do, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, please do reach out to us. From an organizational perspective, right now we're an all volunteer organization. We're doing our fundraising round at the moment, and I think that from early feedback, I think we're probably going to be able to get pretty significant funding. This is an area that a lot of people are interested in, and especially VCs tend to be bored about hearing the same old pitch every single time. Given that we are first to market, we're the only ones that study this stuff on the planet, and we also have either all the experts that exist either directly working for us, advising us, or within our network. I really don't see any major, sort of pole shift in that sense. What else do I want to add on here? Oh, yes. So with regard to the volunteer organization thing, we do have positions that we need help with. We should have an absolutely awesome social media game. We don't right now, but if we had a large team to run social media projects, develop content, and be putting this out there, we could very quickly develop a very, very large user base. We are planning on launching a subscription membership as one of our revenue streams here in the future. Planning on doing that very, very soon. We've been putting together merchandise, and we'll be launching our online store soon. So all these things, they take time and effort, but they're very real. They can bring in real revenue, and then we can become a no kidding paid organization where these roles turn into paid roles. So right now the phase that we're in is getting these revenue streams operating, standing up on our feet, and executing a lot of the just sort of your organizational steps to expand and to grow. So this year is all about aggressive expansion. Let me quote the Joker here. All about conducting a very aggressive expansion as we sort of launch into phase one of the roadmap. There was and the kind of the last area I would I will also drop some links in the chat here for you. Or actually, if you go to the contact page on our website, there are links for all our social media. So please do reach out, connect with us. There's a number of different emails there for getting in touch if you're interested in different aspects of what we do and potentially getting involved. The last thing, as far as MoonDAO, and Pablo and Ryan mentioned that we're not going to fully go into this today, but we are right now at the forefront of trying to help save Rodent Research 20, the NASA mission that I mentioned earlier, which is making all these amazing findings, and had their grant extension cut by NASA about 6 months ago. So their team is effectively operating financially on fumes right now. So they approached us before we had begun to establish our revenue streams here at ASRI to see if we would adopt the project, which we agreed to do. And that was how ASRI actually got involved with MoonDAO, because MoonDAO, having done capital raises in the past, you guys have the infrastructure, you have the network, and the people that care about space. If we want to go live in space, saving this experiment is going to be a really, really big step in doing that. From a reproduction science standpoint, I would say that Rodent Research 20 right now, we have a 10-year head start with the data that they are finding. And that can only, that will only improve if we do manage to save the mice colony that's involved. But if we are, do not manage to raise the $1 to $1.25 million over the next few years that we need to sustain that project and that team, and go 5 or 6 generations deep on those mice, then unfortunately the mice are eventually going to have to get euthanized. We've managed to give them some levels of lifeline funding, but like I said, ASRI is still in the process of standing up on its 2 feet and establishing, more robust revenue streams. So that is, that is something that we're looking to pretty soon here launch as a campaign with MoonDAO, where we do a crypto token raise. And I've discussed with Pablo and Ryan a number of different ways to incentivize that for the MoonDAO community. And I think you guys have over 26,000 members or something, right? That are MoonDAO members, or yeah, yeah. If only I could get it to work once in a while, but. Yeah. So in a very broad overview, yeah, we're looking to expand aggressively. We are, have been building out the plan, are still actively building out the plan. So we're looking for scientists, researchers, operations people. I mean, there's a million different ways that you can potentially get involved with this organization. I would just encourage you, hey, reach out, see what see where the synergies are. Yeah. Yeah, they were jokingly referred to by NASA as the quote unquote $1 million mice. Genetic samples to where they are cost the American taxpayer about $1 million a piece when all was said and done. And now that we have this super valuable asset as a species, I would say it is mind blowing that we are getting ready to just throw it away. But as everybody here is probably pretty aware, there have been very, very significant cuts to science budgets and grants across the United States as of late. And grants are where most universities and labs and just general scientific organizations get a lot of their funding. Private capital does not tend to like funding science unless there is a very clear pathway to them making money on it, because private capital is about generating more capital, and we did approach a number of VCs in our VC network with the mice project, but it's just not their standard portfolio asset. I can tell them that, hey, we are going to have the most valuable genetic data probably in history, within the next few years. But that's not something that they're just gonna quote unquote gamble on. VC capital tends to go after something that they can look at as a sure bet.
A bunch of people can take a small risk with whatever they're comfortable with, and then in the best case scenario, drive hugely valuable research that then supports their initial contribution, with any sort of value accruing to those individuals, or in the worst case scenario, they just get to save these mice and make sure that the research continues to get funded. And it's kind of it's something that it's good in the worst case scenario and it's good in the best case scenario. But yeah, it's tricky always to find these sort of the right kinds of funding mechanisms where it's like you're either surviving on a grant or you're surviving via VC or like a B2B SaaS investment or something like that. That's kind of much more of a surefire bet. So yeah, we're really excited about this. I mean, I think that it's I don't want to say too much more because we're going to be moving ahead with this soon. But yeah, I think this is a great teaser. It was a great intro to ASRI. And I hope that a lot of people in the MoonDAO community kind of dig in deeper and get to know what you guys are working on. I've got the website pulled up here with the ASRI missions, and I've been clicking around as you're talking, and I mean it's super thorough. I'm kind of blown away that you guys have put this much deep thought into basically the next 2055, so the next 30 years.
The cool thing I would love to point out is that so this is a very surface level interface. We are looking at gamifying this in the future just to get the community in general more involved. So it will almost become a game to be able to help along with the research or crowdsource certain aspects of it. But this is a very, like I said, very, very surface level of what the actual plan is. We are planning on releasing the roadmap document itself in the coming months, but it's a behemoth. I mean, it's a beast of a document. A lot of the stuff in there is proprietary, and we can't necessarily release all of it to the public. So, as we're kind of finalizing the overall research plan, which members of ASRI have access to, we are looking to create a sort of sanitized public version that goes a lot deeper than this interface that you have on the website. It goes into specific missions planning and status, what steps everybody's on, what teams are involved. And we do hope to eventually be able to make that sort of a more public set of data on the blockchain. Actually, we're looking to Web3 our website out a little bit. So we want to create a platform where people can be actively engaged and they actually have fun doing it. And the research itself is just really, really cool. It's awesome. It's fun. How could you not see the fun in in section space? But some of these missions that I am looking to incentivize for folks in the future and folks that become members with ASRI, or folks that perhaps join as part of the Save the Mice campaign, is that we do want to take folks that get involved and buy them a ticket into space as well, as part of the the research process, because we have of humanity, and it's not just going to be young, fit, hot people. It's like, hey, we need to look at older couples, we need to look at younger couples, we need to look at folks that have been together for a really long time, or folks that are just recently involved. Yeah, normal people. Phil said it awesome. so we want to send normal people to space, because that's who's going to be going into space, and those are those baseline groups that we need to look at, because information like that is what is going to be useful to the public. So yeah, a lot of different ways to get involved. The Eros missions that we're hoping to launch starting in the late 2020s, and this is obviously all funding dependent. It's all a timeline chain of events. So I'm hoping we don't have to push these dates out much more than they already have been. But the Eros missions are actually, I'll give you guys a small teaser here. Those ones are actually the ones that will study just the mechanics of sex in space. So microgravity sex and floating around different positions, things like that. That is what the Eros missions are. So I expect there to probably be a significant amount of public interest into that when those are all publicly announced and press releases are going out, etc.
Yeah, I can imagine that would get a lot of people interested. Awesome. Well, it's very cool that you're also digging into all of the Web3 stuff, and we might know some people that can help with that too.
Yeah, platform development is a big part of what we want to do. So if folks are really good with Web3, blockchain, web development, we're looking for a whole team there, because it is going to take a team to scale at the level that we're looking to scale.
Yeah, well, we know just the people. 'Cause we've done it here
Awesome
too.
to hear.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of this with the community. Yeah, really excited to see how our communities kind of co-evolve. It sounds like there's a lot of different ways in which we're aligned and that we can support one another. So it's really cool to see, and excited for this next step and saving the space mice. I mean, that's gonna be really exciting when it comes out. Yeah, I think we're a little overdue on transitioning over to project updates, so we'll have
Yeah.
to that. But thank you again, Alex. I really appreciate you joining us here and taking the time to talk to us about ASRI.
Yeah, really. Really appreciate the opportunity to let you guys know a little bit more about us. Appreciate being able to be part of the community.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'll
Cool.
pass it over to you, Ryan, to kick us off into project updates.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Pablo. Great conversation. Super important topic. Something that we don't hear that much about. So really cool to have those conversations here. Yeah, we'll switch into roundtable project updates. We're missing a few project leads this week, but I don't know, Phil, do you want to hop up and give us your update this week?
Yeah, my update is quick this week. For the space-time card, we had the design review, or it's not design, the integration review progress review last week. I reported on that. I wrote it up and included a lot more detail, including the main points of feedback that the experts gave. So we're all clear on the feedback cycle that's driving this project forward. I'm working on the final report. I plan to submit this this quarter with a report that covers Q1 2025 and back to Q4 2024 when we started. So that's in work. But other than filling out the final report, I won't have any more project updates until April 26th when we show the demonstration and white paper and presentation and things.
Cool. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, Eiman had a work obligation, obviously, as Pablo shared. A little brief update there. Documentary still moving forward. They got back another kind of final cut with some small changes of the documentary, and we're still trying to figure out a time, hopefully, where we can all get together and talk about the next steps for the documentary project. I'm not sure if it'll be submitted as a final report this quarter or not, but stay tuned, I guess, for next week. In terms of the MOONEY to the Moon project, there's no real updates there. The capsule's still on the moon. There hasn't been any significant changes in terms of the payload or whatnot there. There'll be a final report coming next week for that as well. But yeah, Pablo, do you want to provide any updates on your end for the tokenomics and Launchpad?
Yeah. So with the Launchpad, we're in the final sprint right now, doing integration testing, getting everything nice and polished up for the end of the quarter, and we'll have the report put together for next week. Similar with the Treasury management, we're closing in on a mechanic that's actually shared between the Treasury and the Launchpad, which is the AMM fee distribution. And so Jade's been doing a lot of great work there. And once we have that, then we'll deploy a couple new liquidity pools on different chains and wrap that up by the end of the quarter. Yep, that's it for me.
Cool. Also, yeah, I just shared a link. I know there are a few tickets left, or I believe there's still a few tickets left for the London event that's coming up in a few weeks, the Sea and Space event that Christina's putting on. If you have any interest or know anyone who might be interested, definitely check out that link. Should be a really cool event. That's basically it for project updates. Next week we'll be doing our final report So it'll be a demo day and final report. Get to check out all the cool stuff that people have been building over this past quarter. And after that, obviously, there'll be the community rewards cycle to vote on those projects and provide some retroactive compensation for their deliverables and impact. Also, again, as Mitchie said earlier, definitely get in your contributions into the contribution circle. Deadline's coming up real quick for anything that happened, between January and the end of March. So we'll also be doing that at the same time, basically, as the project retroactive rewards. And we've been getting a lot faster with these reward distributions. So hopefully, within the first couple weeks here in April, those rewards will be delivered to your guys' wallets. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys next week for final reports and demo day. Thanks everyone for joining this week. Thanks again, Alex, for taking some time to talk with us. And we'll see you next week. If anyone wants to hop into Major Tom for a little bit of open floor discussion, feel free. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Welcome to MoonDAO, a revolutionary governance model and mission-oriented community that's reshaping collaboration in the space industry. Our mission is to create a self-sustaining, self-governing settlement on the moon to act as a launch point into the cosmos. MoonDAO is governed like a nation, with its own economy, constitution, voting system, treasury, elections, and senate. But internet native, and so without the limitations of geography. In 2022, we sent our first member to space, showcasing our model's capacity for real-world impact. Now, we're implementing key solutions for global collaboration in the space industry. We offer a borderless, permissionless platform that enables everyday people to participate in the future of space development and exploration. Be part of our lunar legacy and join the MoonDAO movement today.